Good day, and thank you for joining Civilnet. My guest today is Dr. Friedrich Glasl. He's a consultant and trainer for corporate development, mediator, and trainer for trainers. He's been working, coming to Armenia a couple of times. He's been working in Armenia, Tbilisi, teaching in universities in Austria, England, Finland, Germany, Russia, Georgia, Armenia, and more. Author of books and articles, and the co-founder of Trigon company. Thank you for being here today. And well, when I heard that you were in town and you were doing workshops and consultancy in Armenia, it was kind of very exciting because I thought, well, this is a point where Armenian business and organizations, governmental and non-governmental, have reached a point when they need your consultancy or your expertise in internal conflict resolution or a larger trajectory of development. Is this kind of true? Is there a point in any organization's life when this trajectory needs to be mapped out?
Yes, yes. You see, in times of, let's say, instability, economic, political, cultural instability, people get under enormous pressure, crisis, stress. And then the danger is that they make short-sighted decisions, one-sided, and not considering what are the middle-term, long-term effects, and how is this problem interrelated with other problems. So the risk of wrong decisions, which have consequences for years maybe. And therefore, if people become aware of this and do something to be capable to deal with stress, tension, conflict, then the quality of the decision of government, of management, is really not perfect maybe, but the chance to be improved, to make better decisions.
So you've worked with in Europe and
Yeah.
different countries. What's very specific about Armenia, given that the crisis, development crisis, economic crisis is like more tangible here. Also the situation on the border with war, and also Armenia is relatively new country, 25 years. So the concept of having businesses and development long-term is also rather new to Armenia. Mm-hmm. So any specific characteristics regarding Armenia that you've noticed? Mm-hmm. In business mentality or...
Okay. But please, it's difficult for me to generalize because of I visited then and then and then and then. And of course I have special contacts, colleagues in various fields. So it's difficult to generalize. I can tell you what my impression is. My impression is that on the one hand, looking at different kinds of organizations, of whether public administration or industry, service organizations, my impression is that most of these organizations are a little bit too bureaucratic, very much concerned with the internal way of doing, with rules, procedures, and so, and less building on, I would say, on creativity, on the responsibility of the people on different levels. So this is something we have, of course, in all countries. But that's one side of the problem. The existing old organizations, to get them out of the bureaucratic mood and to establish forms of organizing and management and customer relationship and even organization and government relationship, which allows the people to use better the resources which are there, experience. The people in the different places in the organization are the real experts, actually. They have the experience, the knowledge, and not the top management. The top management has to activate and use to mobilize the different experiences. And the second stream is, and that's a very difficult situation. The second is you need startups, quite a lot. Like in many countries now, they dream of, we get rid of the old organizations and startups, like Silicon Valley everywhere. See, the small ones, which start in a garage or some in a little shop or so. And it is very important that I would say economic and political environment fosters, allows these startups, gives them a lot of freedom, and not regulating this and this and this and hindering this and this with many laws and restrictions. So to have this, to build next to the existing organization, which have to be transformed to more organic type and not bureaucratic type of organizations, and on the other hand, pioneering organizations, which are small ones and which also can form a kind of a network.
Is that the kind of advice you might have given to the Swiss government, let's say, in order to help the startups?
The Swiss, the Austrian, where I come from, and they reinvent the startup philosophy again in Paris and everywhere, because, as you know, the economy is not blooming really elsewhere. But it is important to see that we have to deal with different worlds. The startup world, really, which needs maximum of freedom, and on the other hand, those who develop further out of the bureaucratic, restricted way of organizing and customer relationship.
So I also know that for situation, conflict, or a difficult situation, a deadlock to be resolved, people in it need to recognize the problem.
Yes.
Have we in Armenia, do you think we've recognized, be it in the corporate world, the startups, or the governmental level, have we recognized the problem?
I said first, it's difficult for me to generalize, but I dare to tell you what my personal impression is.
Yes.
Because of the context I have. And my impression is you would need much more awareness of what is the character of the existing, and what are the weaknesses of the existing system, and what are the advantages, but also dangers, of course, of the startup economy, for instance. My impression, not generalizing, but my impression is this awareness should be growing and growing. And also the awareness that the key for any success of enterprises is a real, honest, and complete customer orientation. Not the inward orientation, are we doing the things in an efficient way, but are we doing the effective things, which are really solving problems of customers, clients, students, patients, or looking at the government and the people. Is the government really solving the problems which are here in society? Yeah.
So again, appealing to your general knowledge, a country like Armenia, which is kind of, as a state, is a startup in itself.
Yes, I can say, yes. Yeah.
So is there the tendency in organizations, in new developments, in new organizations and businesses to mimic other people's experience, while not noticing that might not be the right solution for Armenia?
My idea is that what is required is really, something of different levels. The one is I would say, a general investment in educational systems. Not only the existing school systems, primary, secondary, university, etc., but within organizations. That it is very important that organizations invest in the people's knowledge and skills. I remember once a conversation with the CEO of the Dutch airline KLM, for instance, and when he said we have to invest up to about 4% of all the salary, of the sum of all salaries of our employees, 4%, which is quite a lot. Because we are changing, we are moving, technology is changing, the expectations of the customers, the clients are changing, etc. And then some of the managers said, yes, but we have to invest in other things, and what are our priorities and so. And then he said, which became a very famous thing, then if you don't follow me, then try it with ignorance, and you will see where you will be in 2-3 years' time. Yeah? We lose our customers. People are going to those airlines which are providing a real better client service and so, and quality and security and what else. And this is all based on learning of people, permanent learning of people.
Dr. Glasl, the kind of service you offer, the kind of trajectory for development, is this something that you advise when's the time when an organization can afford or is mature enough to understand that they need a curriculum for development? Is this when they start? Is this should be kind of in the program when they start, or it's after a couple of years of already being out there and surviving then and seeing the future when a consultancy such as yours can come in? When's the best time? I'm sure some of our viewers who have businesses or are thinking about would wonder.
There are many questions, but one is, when can they afford it? Always. Always. It's as we call it, spirit capital, human capital. Yeah. Not saying that humans are reduced to capital like money or so, but it is actually the resource you need. But the learning is different in a startup organization or in a well-established, more or less bureaucratic organization. The startup organization, the learning means that people are completely depending on feedback. What is the customer saying? When is he satisfied, dissatisfied? What do we learn from our mistakes, etc.? In the customer and service provider relationship, the feedback, not after the service has been finished, but while the process is going on. And the other is also, again, the learning, or the startup organization. The learning takes place in when the different people being working in a startup organization, when they give feedback to each other. There's nothing taboo, because if you do not give feedback, positive criticizing to your colleagues and so, maybe you repeat the same mistake, the same failure, etc., and then at a certain moment the customer says goodbye to the company. He can choose. He has alternatives, different options. So the learning here is feedback. Looking now at bigger organizations, established organizations, of course it is knowledge, skills, but embedded in a general feedback culture. For instance, for many years, the communication was top-down oriented and not bottom-up oriented. And people learned to report to the higher management or the top management what they wanted to hear, and not what was really going on.
So is the semi-horizontal organization a better business model, let's say?
Yes.
Well, since you're here, I'm going to take advantage of you. And for example, for an organization like Civilnet, we're a news agency, like Civilnet ourselves. Okay. We're a news agency working in Armenia. This is our environment. We're a lot of the time working long hours and need to make decisions on hourly basis. And for an organization like us to be based on feedback, let's say, would you say that's a correct line of...
the key of success.
But the thing is, for example, with media, the more entertaining and the lighter the reports are, usually they get more feedback. If we are completely dependent on the feedback of our viewers, probably our course of our general course would divert from what we stand for. Is there an alternative to
No, because what you described is the kind of learning. The question is, what can you do to get more and more feedback? And not only feedback if something is wrong, you see, but also feedback on your good performance. Or please do more of this, so to increase your strength, not only to get rid of your weaknesses and so. And of course, I think, as far as I can judge here in the very few minutes I know this organization and you, is, of course, really to dare to confront the audience with a diversity of opinions, a diversity of positions and so that they are actually challenged, well, do you believe this or do you believe that? And when I judge this and this, so...
Which is, I believe, what we do.
Yes, I guess that's it.
All right, so we work under a lot of stress, especially this year. We've had the April war, we had the July events of the police station takeover, so they were days when we worked 12 days non-stop, long
12 days
hours,
a week and 48 hours a day.
Yes.
Okay.
For example, in situations like that, to avoid conflict, is there a quick advice you would have for us?
I would say you can't avoid differences, that people have different ideas, aims, interests, etc. But how you deal with them, this can avoid that the differences become conflicts, because difference and conflict are two different things. So to have difference is a necessity. I mean,
it is a necessity, especially for us, because we...
For you, for any democratic life, for any, I go even further generalizing thing, for any organization. Only because there are different disciplines, different experiences, different fields of knowledge, you can you can create a kind of a synthesis, yeah, or a synergy, yeah. The product or whatever you're providing for your audience and so, or products or services, an airline and so. So it's only possible because you have differences and because the task of the organization is to use the differences as resources and not to consider them to be a problem. But differences can become conflicts when you have not learned to appreciate the different idea, different opinion. Oh, when you disagree with me, I can get angry about it or feel a bit insulted maybe, but I can say, what have you seen which I have neglected, which I have ignored? When I try to change the chair and to see it from your perspective, maybe I see my blind spots, and then I can improve my ideas, my understanding, my performance, etc. So this is actually to avoid conflict, not to avoid differences. So to strengthen the ability of dealing in a constructive, appreciative way with the differences and not suppressing or punishing or whatsoever.
Thank you very much. That's very valuable advice.
Which you did know already, I guess.
Well, well. And we also thank the viewers for joining us today. I hope you found the conversation interesting. So your feedback counts. Please, more feedback.
Please give feedback.
Yes, and well, as Dr. Glasl advised, avoid conflict, not difference. Thank you for joining us.